He just started saying, like, who loves their dad? And at first it was just a chill thing, and we'd all we do, me.
Yeah.
And then over the years, as we've grown up and gotten louder, he'll then yell it, and it's like, who
it's a
can
loudness
say it
contest, and who says it
first? Yeah, so it's like a race to say me, but then you also have to be loudest. So
Yeah.
it gets a little
crazy.
yeah.
The main lesson that my dad has taught me that I want to pass on to my children is that your sisters, obviously as I have two sisters, but whether or not they're sisters or brothers, they're your best friends and they're going to be there for you by your side. And that's really something that I want to pass on with my family and for generations to come, because I couldn't imagine it any other way, because my sisters are truly my best friends and I really have my parents to thank for that.
We were having troubles with our friendships.
Yes.
And he pulled us into his bedroom with my mom and sat us on the bed.
Yep.
And we're crying. And Abigail was younger, so she didn't know exactly what was going on. But he said, do you want to know who your best friend is? And we're like naming people from school. And he points to
Each
each
other.
other. And he goes, they're your best friend. And we were like, oh.
We hadn't never thought of it
And so
that
we
way.
stopped crying, and he was like, they are your best friends, and you don't have to cry about friends from school. You can still have them, but they'll never make you cry.
Yep.
And we were, do you remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, on the bed.
100%.
We
Yeah.
sat there, and I think that truly shaped us and why.
We are so
Yeah.
close. And I think too, when we do have, of course, sister arguments, I think that's why we're able to move on so quickly
Yeah.
too, and just put it in the past, because I think that sits in all of our brains. It's ingrained in us.
That was, I think,
We'll
honestly
always do.
something that we'll never forget.
Ever. A simple yet significant thing that I share with Dad, as silly as it sounds, I think might be our love of chips. That might just be a Graham thing too, but we are big fans of chips in the Graham family.
I have a lot of funny memories of my dad, but one that always comes to mind is every time that I've gone through a breakup, whether it be big or small, my dad has always consistently been right. He has always said exactly what he thinks the boy is going to say, whether it's in the next 5 minutes or whether it's a week or a month from now. And we always laugh because whatever advice he gives me or whatever he says is going to happen, he's been right probably at least 99% of the time.
A couple of my favorite things about Dad, funniest moments, revolve around food. The first being I let Zoya lick every single apple from my bowl, and then I got up from the couch and did something and left my apples, and I came back and they were gone, and Dad ate them after the cat licked every one. A second was I was eating pudding and Jell-O, and I didn't like it, so I spit it back in my cup at a restaurant, and I went to the bathroom, and I came back and it was gone. So he ate that. So yes, Dad, just him eating stuff, it's been great.
One life lesson that my dad taught me that I think is always going to stay in my life is that family is forever. Family is always going to be your biggest supporter, your biggest cheerleader, and they're always going to be there when you fall or when you're having the best time of your life. And that's something that I want to always instill, not only with my family, but to also have my future family members instill that for generations to come.
My funniest memory of Dad, I think, is when we were at a Mariners game, I don't know, 10 years ago, and he brought his baseball mitt to the game so that he could potentially catch one of the foul balls. Well, we had all just gotten food and drinks, and we were sitting down, and I don't even think the game had started, and here comes a foul ball that he tried to catch. He fell out of his chair onto the ground to catch. And little did he know, it actually rolled straight to my feet. So I just picked it up like it was no big deal. I think he had beer all over him. Ashley sat in ketchup. I mean, it was a whole ordeal. And we like to give him a hard time for that, for valid reasons, I think.
A memory from my childhood that helped shape me today is definitely the 5th grade when I decided to try out for the basketball team. I, for some reason, thought that it would be a good idea to get into basketball, and I just remember my dad in the crowds, in the stands. I didn't get past the ball very often. As you most know me, I'm not very athletic, but I would still give it my best effort. And no matter what, my dad was always in the stands cheering me on. And I can remember I was finally past the ball, and I took a shot and I made it. And it was the only basket I made that entire year of playing basketball. But the first person I went to look at was my dad, because I knew that he would be up standing on his feet, clapping and cheering for me. And that's exactly what he did. That's something that I'll never forget, because the very first person that I wanted to look at and see after I made that, exciting basket as a 5th grader was my dad. And he was there with a huge smile on his face because he knew how excited I was. And, that's something that he still is today. He's still my biggest cheerleader.
One of my favorite memories with Dad would be him walking me down the aisle, of course. I remember this so perfectly. We were in the house, I was freaking out. Dad's telling me very sternly not to cry and to hold it together. My coordinator opened the door and he goes and starts bawling. We hadn't even stepped out of the house. So then I start crying before we even see guests. But I think for Dad and I having such I call it my father-son relationship of being the tough middle child. It was our moment of feeling emotion and him walking me down the aisle and giving me away. Because we're usually funny and sassy and bratty to each other and loving, of course. But it was our very deep sentimental moment that I wish I did have on camera, but it's engraved in my memory. Hi, Dad. So I just want to thank you for just everything you do for us. I think we don't say it enough.
I am so blessed and thankful to have you in my life. I couldn't imagine having a better buddy, a better father, or just someone who is constantly putting his family first.
Dad, I just want to say thank you so much for everything you've done for me in my life.
Everything I have, down to the house I live in, my relationships, my relationship with Mom and the sisters, is all because of you and what you instilled in us.
You've raised me to be a strong, independent woman who's hardworking and really values family
I love you so much, and I wish that I was still living in Spokane so that I could hang out with you more.
Thank you for your unconditional love and showing us what love is, showing us what a happy marriage is.
Just want you to know that I love you and you'll always be my best buddy.
And so we love you and we appreciate you, and we couldn't imagine life without you.